Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John. You forget your name there?
Sorry. I got stumped a little bit quick. My mine was it's been so long that
it's been 2 weeks, man.
Once.
Yeah.
So I thought I screwed the introduction up there, but I think we did it right. But
from the last I remember, that is the correct introduction.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
All right, as we derail within just a couple seconds of the show, a lot quicker than normal. So all right. So tonight's date is Sunday, March 6th. So basically what we're getting to talk to tonight is start with basketball. Tough loss for the Buckeyes today. Kind of feels a little bit like last year. It seems like going inconsistent and very inconsistent heading into the Big Ten tournament. So I don't know. Good thing, bad thing, how that's going to end up shaking out. We know where our seeding is, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about the game. We'll talk about the seeding. Just a little bit of our thoughts here going into the tournament. And then spring practice starts this week, so we're going to get into some spring talk and kind of just talk a little bit of some of the stuff we want to see heading into spring and just other thoughts. So we will get going. So tough loss today, John. And I mean, when you watch the first half, they had that huge run at the end of the first half. It's like, all right, they took advantage of this. Michigan did hit the final basket at the half. But they were down 7, and Ohio State had all the momentum.
Yeah.
And so it was looking really good. I'm like, and basketball there's tons of swings in basketball. So you knew Michigan was going to make a comeback of some sorts. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't going to be Ohio State wasn't just going to continue that pace into the second half, but it was just very disappointing how kind of they just fell off the world. It felt like there for pretty much the first 14 minutes of the second half, and just let Michigan take a double-digit lead on them, and then they started kind of bouncing back some. It was just, but they couldn't ever stop Michigan from scoring to the point that they could go on a big 10-0 run or something to really put them firmly tied. Every time I think they got the closest they got it to back was 4, and then just Michigan would always go up another shot, get a score. And so tough loss.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. Ohio State, I mean, they looked really good at the end of the first half, and it's a shame that they looked pretty good actually at the end of the second half too, but it's just, I mean, is that cold spell in the second half really just that? I mean, they killed them. They just let them get out too far ahead. Michigan was just much more, I don't want to say athletic, but they just didn't have issues. Like they pushed the pace of the game just much more effectively than what Ohio State did. Ohio State's really good, attack the basket, and we don't see that a lot from Holtman's teams. So, I mean, that was disappointing, but Michigan, and I know like it's not a original thought or anything. They were talking about it all over Fox, the crew, but having Dickinson out of the game for Michigan was almost like a blessing, because Ohio State, they were preparing for the game to go, with him in the center, and the game kind of go around him. And then without him there, Michigan, I mean, they just pushed the pace much more than what they normally do. And they were just really, I mean, that Jones to Diabate combination, I mean, that was hitting all day long. I mean, that guy, they were just, hitting their threes, just great passing on Michigan's part. Ohio State really sloppy with the basketball in the second half. And I didn't get to watch, the entire game. I was doing stuff around the house. So I'd, do something, then I run back to the TV. I mean, I wasn't very productive because of the game, but I didn't get to watch it, 100%, wasn't all focus on my part. So maybe I missed some really good things from Ohio State, but it just seemed like, I don't know, it was just kind of a sloppy second half, and defense really didn't have an answer for when Michigan really started to try to, push the ball and swing the ball around and just get open looks.
Yeah. Actually, and I was getting ready to bring that up too about, Gus and Jim Jackson. They were talking about that it kind of caught Ohio State off guard a little bit. And you actually saw that early in the first half where it was Ohio State was being very lazy getting back on defense, both on missed shots and on made shots. Mm-hmm. And it was like they weren't expecting Michigan to really push it at them on, getting rebounds or, off a score. Right. Michigan was coming right back down, and they got some easy buckets because of it. And then Ohio State started really cramping down on that, and that's where they end up getting the lead. They go on the big run at the end of the half, and then they just played very sloppy with the ball for that first, basically 2/3 of the. I mean, it was almost to the 6-minute mark when they basically kind of started turning it around, but. That first 10 minutes of the second half and bleeding into the second 10 minutes was, they were just throwing lots of turnovers. It was like they were being very lazy with the passes, and Michigan was just jumping the passing lanes. And they got how many steals off just jumping passing lanes, and and they were more athletic, and they were just getting down there and scoring on them, making easy shots, getting into transition, and. Ohio State, there was always an open man at that point, and Michigan just got hot, and so it was good defense by Michigan, and it was sloppy play by the Ohio State's offense. So, and then you just get to a point where, once you get down by that much, and then you start going on a run, you have to be like just lights out defense because they can't score at that point.
Right.
If they're up by 12. Yeah, if they're up by 12, you got to go on a 12-0 run to tie them, and that's pretty much it was. 12-14, I think it was at a point, and you can't just it's nice to go on a 10-0 run, but then if you just let them start scoring again, and then like Michigan would go on like these mini runs where they would go up kind of like 4 or 6 more added to it, and then it was just Ohio State just could never get back into sync to really stop them from scoring and then continue scoring on them for themselves.
I know. And it's just, we see this a lot with Chris Holtman's teams too. It's just, they're like, I think Chris Holtman's Ohio State basketball teams are just the most polarizing part of Ohio State athletics. I mean, they are just the streakiest teams year in, year out. And that's good and bad. I mean, there's times where they look like the best team in the country. I think probably every year since he's been there, we've said, oh my God, these guys could actually make a run. They look like the best team in the country. Yeah. And then they go on these runs when they get into Big Ten play. And it's like, they just can't win a game for weeks, or it's like Jekyll and Hyde, like one game is beautiful. They beat Illinois. The next game they're losing to Nebraska. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's hard. It's a head scratcher.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, last year it was kind of like the same thing. It was like, they were actually looking good in February, and it's like, because I remember, and I believe it was either Iowa or Michigan where just kind of started the downward spiral, where they kind of just got beat up on the boards. They were having a hard time against teams with bigger men, and there was some stretch. It might have been Purdue and maybe not Iowa. I don't remember which one it was. Well, but
every Big Ten team has some, 7-foot white guy that's in the middle there, except Ohio State.
Yeah. And I don't know, for whatever reason it was just, they just hit that stretch. They looked really good, and then they hit a stretch where then they looked really inconsistent. And that always is the couple weeks leading into the tournament play, which is like the worst time. It's always the hottest teams that, you think, and you think, okay, they're hot in February. Right. They're looking really good. And then like those last 2 weeks of February, the last week of February and the first week of March, whatever it is. And it's like, damn, now they're like looking like crap, getting ready to head into the most important games of the year for them.
Yeah. And and I know it's like a killer for them right now, just how much they've played condensed down. I mean, everyone's doing it, but I know it's definitely been rough on the Buckeyes. Um, I'm almost at the spot where I don't know if losing in their first game in the Big Ten tournament would be the end of the world for them. Like, you get a couple days, get your legs under you, get bounced in that tournament early, and you get a week then to get more rest. Cause I mean, we saw it last year where they were kind of like ran out of gas, and then they go on some improbable run to get to the championship game of the Big Ten tournament, lost to Illinois, of course. They ran out of steam. I believe they get it to overtime in that game. But then it's like they just pushed themselves again like too hard. And it's like, man, you're injured. You played all these games. I don't know. I don't think it'd be the worst thing if they lose.
I can see where you're talking about. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much of a loss in the first round hurts them, or their first game that they'll play because they're getting a bye. I mean, they're 23rd in the country right now. They lost, so they'll probably drop maybe. They might even be out of the top 25 going into the tournament play. And it depends where everything else shakes out this week. That they, I don't know how much of a drop off in seeding come NCAA tournament time. That really is lost there. I mean, it's a pretty foregone conclusion that they're in, and that being usually once you're in the top 25 and you're a Power 5, you're not, getting bounced at any point at that. So, they're in.
And I'd imagine they'd have to be a top 8 seed in whatever region they get to if they're a top 25 team right now. They might be a 7, but they should still be the favorite in whatever game they're starting off the tournament. Which
it could put them in a
what does that matter?
Position where a loss could put them in a position where maybe they're one of the first the first 8 or whatever, the first 4 games that play. I mean, they could be that. What is it? Because don't they usually like a 7-10 games are normally like
the first 4.
So that could happen to them. I mean there's a possibility there. I mean, that was a big, and what kind of sucks in the second half after that end of that first half is Michigan needs that win. Like Michigan, that they have to win this game. I mean, I don't even, obviously outside of a tournament run at that point, I don't know if they make it. And, I mean, maybe they do just on their name that they might sneak in towards, the bottom of the bracket wherever they cut off from the Power 5 to when,
I mean, we're talking a 500 record at that point.
11th to 13th seed where they, usually cut off the Power 5 teams from the, the teams that they feel don't deserve it from the, the teams that won their tournaments from the smaller conferences. But Michigan definitely needs that win. To probably, I don't know if guarantees them in, but at least as a booster now to where, they get a couple wins maybe into the Big Ten tournament, they secure that spot now. So that might, beating Ohio State might mean they only have to win 1 or 2 games in the tournament to get in, where, losing to Ohio State might mean that they have to get all the way to the championship game and possibly win the championship game to get in.
I think if they would have lost today, I think they would have needed the Big Ten title to get into the tournament.
I kind of agree with that.
So that's a shame because you want to keep those guys out of the tournament. So that sucks. Just, to kind of expound on what we're talking about with the team though, and just like bigger picture with the Holtman teams, it really just seems like, they struggled to have more than one guy at a time that can create their own shot. I think this year, though, you got Branham and you got Liddell that can both show that they can create their own shot. I never had an issue with EJ Liddell. I thought he was, he's always been a good player and everything, but I always thought, he did struggle at times to be able to, run an offense on his own, create his own shot. And I think sometimes he came up a little flat-footed late in games, but I mean, he looks like a superstar this year. Like, I don't know if it's just extra, body's more used to, the long stretch now being in his last year. I don't know if it's more, more time spent in the weight room. I'm not sure what it is. He definitely looks more the part, though, that I think he could be a contributor even at the next level. And Branham, I mean, that guy could be, he could probably be like a lottery pick this year, he is good. And so, I mean, I think they got the pieces that they can go on a tournament run because you got two scorers. You're pretty good. I mean, Zed Key is good, you know.
It's just I wonder what those injuries will do to him.
Yeah, I know. That's rough. Kyle Young, you know, he's banged up too. That he's a good player, but he's hurt.
Justin Johnson got hurt today.
Yeah, you know, he got hurt. So. Justin Aarons is a good 3-point shooter, but man, I really wish that guy had a little bit of ability to, you know, create a shot off a dribble or something. That it seems like he has to be alone and just, you know, pop a shot type of guy to really be effective. And you're not always in that situation. I really wish he could create some spacing by himself to get a shot off even with a guy in his face. So I don't know. I mean, history tells us they're probably not going to go to the Sweet 16 with, you know, but I do think they're talented enough that they could go on a run in the term.
Yeah. A lot of it's, you know, I mean, there's always that number 7 to 11th seed, you know, 12 seed at times too, that just makes that, you know, improbable run that gets to the Sweet 16, possibly the Elite 8. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that happens a lot of years. So, I mean, Ohio State, they have the talent that could be one of those teams, you know. It's just, you know, they're going to play a higher seed a lot earlier than they probably would want. It'll be a first weekend type thing, because, you know, they're probably going to be in that stretch there where they're going to see a 1 through 3 seed if they win, you know. So, you know, that will be interesting. You know, they just have the talent. It's just, I wish, like, I don't know, do they, like, it's something that we have to start talking about, like, and I mean, do they burn themselves out too early, you know, through early in the season where, you know, like, yeah, I love those December big matchups too. Like, maybe if you lose, like, could you lose a couple and then be more ready for, you know, those end of the year runs? Like, from what I remember of Thad's teams, you know, there was a lot of years where Thad would drop a stupid game against a power team in December, like, you know, a Kentucky, North Carolina, whoever. They would look really good in that game, and then they would lose it, or you know,
right, like kind of fall apart in the last 5 minutes or something like that.
And then, but in a lot of years, that teams were pretty unbeatable in the month of February, and, like, you know, especially the second half of February going into March. I mean, how many big time runs did they have where you know, they were ready to go come Big Ten time, that and they were the hottest team in the conference, you know, to finish off the year. I mean, how many high seeds did they have in the Big Ten tournament? So, you know, it's just a different thing. And, you know, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's different than football, where you could drop a few games early to, you know, make sure that you got to be playing your best basketball come, you know, February on. And, you know, and it always seems like they start fine into early February, but then it's like, then the inconsistencies start popping up. Cause I mean, I remember just a few weeks ago when they were really, you know, they had that tough run. They had that tough stretch this year with the COVID, and then trying to get back into the games where they dropped a few. But once they started getting going again, it was like, you know, you listen to a lot of people on Twitter. You know, I'm not necessarily an expert to watch it. There's a lot of people on Twitter that understand college basketball a lot better than I do, because they watch it a lot more. But, you know, you read that, you see it with your own eyes, and you're like, all right, they're kind of they're really starting to hit their swing here, and they're looking really good. And then it's like they always hit this wall, like right at this, like, seems like this time of year. And it's like, you know, they've lost 3 out of 4 in Columbus. You know, they've lost some other games. They've had some bad losses. I mean, it was a bad loss to Nebraska the other day. Then they have a good win against Michigan State, and then they have a bad loss today, when, you know, there was a part of that game where they were in control, and if they would have just kept that up into the second half, they win that game. And, you know,
right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's definitely hard to put your finger on. I mean, it's just like I said, it seems like he only ever has one scorer, and this year he kind of got 2. So you got, you know, that you could do some stuff, but They gotta show up for the games. You can't get bounced in the first round. I mean, I hope they get to the Sweet 16. I really do, but you just get past the first game in the tournament.
Yeah, I agree. Little bit on the Big Ten tournament. So they're gonna finish out as a 6th seed going into it. So we get a bye. There's an ongoing game right now, Minnesota Northwestern. So that determines who the 14th seed's going to be. So we're going to play the winner of Penn State versus the 14th seed. So, we'll wait and see tonight. We'll know who that game will officially be here in a couple hours. The game's going on right now. Not watching it, but that game is going on right now. So I don't know what's going on necessarily in it, but so that'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think they gotta be close to being done because I think they started around 8 or something like that.
Oh.
But yeah. Anyways,
yeah.
Sorry.
So it seems like Ohio State should win that game, and I would like to see. I mean, I get your point. They could definitely use the rest. I don't know if they don't need to go all the way to the Big Ten tournament because I don't know how much of a Big Ten tournament or championship win really necessarily means. I don't think it's bumping them up that many.
Yeah, I don't.
They're going to be in that 7 to I think probably 10 range, maybe 7 to 11 range. So I think that's just where they're going to finish out. And I mean, a bad loss will probably put them at the back end of that more towards 11. And, maybe a win or two will keep them towards the front of that as a 7 or 8 seed. So I think that's kind of where we'll probably end up. So, maybe a win or two and then see what happens. And maybe they get a few days rest in there where they can get their legs back under them a little bit and get ready for, the opening round of the tournament.
Yes, exactly.
Before we get into spring football, because I don't think we actually talked about the Juwan situation. I did want to cover that a little bit. Like, I think it happened after our last show.
Well, this was game number 5. Suspension served.
Yeah,
suspension over.
A lot of different takes back and forth. I will say that it's not necessarily a bias of the rivalry. That when it first happened, I definitely think, they need to fire him. Like, you can't just behave like that. That's not. I've kind of changed my position a little bit. Now going forward a couple weeks, I've been like, I think that's probably, that's like a last final warning that like, hey, you can't do this ever again or you're gone. I did not like how that Wisconsin coach got into his face. It seemed like that he really antagonized. I don't know what the actual physical words that were said between the two, but the guy does run back to get into his face. And I'm just like, man, you're like 5'1", and Juwan Howard is a giant. I mean, like, it kind of like to me was like, man, was he trying to get him to throw a punch or something like that? Because that's not cool neither. And so I was definitely leaning up first that, they should fire him because you can't do that. And probably if, you're going to hold it to me, I would say probably now, same situation. You probably got to terminate him. But I don't know. I think I was okay with the 5-game suspension that when I thought about it a little bit more, I don't know necessarily. I felt like he deserved to be terminated over it. That I maybe would have just suspended him from the rest of the season.
I think then that's where I'm at. 5 games isn't enough. I think the rest of the year is enough. Maybe they just thought Michigan was done and they wouldn't be going to the tournament or something like that. I don't know, but I think you had to make it that you can start coaching again 22-23 season, but the 21-22 season, you're done for.
Yeah, I agree. I think they probably should have threw the postseason in there too. You're not allowed coaching the Big Ten tournament either. And if you make it to the NCAAs, you're not allowed coaching that.
Yeah.
It's either that or you don't have it. It probably would have been the ultimatum I would have thrown at him that, you need to take some time for reflection here. But that's my point on it. I think it's kind of a crazy situation. I remember you texted me about it. It's like, and then I go on And I go on Twitter and it's everywhere. And I'm just like watching it like, holy crap, they need to fire him, man. They need to Woody Hayes that man. And
yeah. And I agree with you, though. I think maybe firing him would have been too much, but I definitely think like you're not coaching this basketball season anymore. We'll see you next year.
The Wisconsin coach didn't get any suspension at all, did he?
He didn't get hit, or he didn't throw a punch.
I know, but for the antagonizing part, I would have suspended him a game or two. If I was the Big Ten, I've been like, Juwan Howard's taking the brunt of this, but like you that's not showing good sportsmanship neither. And you did, I would have suspended him a game or two. That just if I'm commissioner, he would have got a phone call from me also that you're let's be serious here. I don't know what was necessarily said between you two, but you don't need to try to start to antagonize the whole situation out of something either. So like sometimes you just have to be a cool. A lot of times that falls down to the first person. You got to be the cooler head, and so
yeah, no, I can agree with you there.
So, I mean, but yeah, that's just our opinions. I just wanted to get your take on it. Spring football, man.
Hold on. Before spring football, we got to mention sub 4.4 40s, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. I know. I just thought about it. I'm like, we got this whole like agenda, and we forgot about the combine.
No, combine. That was a big one this week. Yeah. So, Olave. So what ended up being his final time? It was a 4.36.
I think it was a 4.39, but yeah, the unofficial was a 4.26, and Buckeye Twitter and everybody just went wild over that because
it's like
everyone's like Chris Olave is going to be the first wide receiver taken now.
I knew the dude is fast. I'm like when I heard 4.29, I'm like or whatever. I'm like what? Like, like
yeah.
I know he's fast because he gets behind everybody, but I didn't know he's like that fast. Like, and I'm like the 4.3. So that sounds more like that's like a little bit more. I knew they both are in the 4.3s. I mean.
Well,
that's what
some clown, I can't remember who it was, said Wilson was going to run a 4.55.
No, that's just people not really understanding stuff. I get it that, they use Olave different than Wilson. Olave is their deep threat, but the dude can flat out fly too. Like,
right.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen plenty of things from his recruiting all the way forward about how fast he can move the ball, that he can move. So, yeah. And now 2020, you wonder why Clemson's secondary had no shot when you add those two plus Jamison Williams was on the field together. And that's why you had so many guys behind their secondary that whole freaking game.
Yeah. Kind of disappoints you that there wasn't a better showing 10 days after that, but
yeah, it's like I know the defense is like, the defense is very, very suspect in that game, but you lose Sermon early, and I get it. Surtain's on the one side of the field, but I don't know who the hell's on the other side of the field.
Well, the other guy was a backup, I'm pretty sure, and what's his face Battle gets kicked out of the game.
Yeah.
You just chuck the ball. I mean, that's your chance. Is you just chuck.
That's literally it. Just throw it up and see if somebody can burn by somebody to catch it, and you have 3 burners. So JMO, the Surtain's not on JMO, so yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty sure he was on Olave.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, it does make you like that's like even more of a head scratcher now. But
because you knew,
because Fields has an arm, he likes to throw the ball deep. Just be like, just throw the ball deep and just see if one of these guys can catch it.
Right, and that Fields, like his core is all messed up during that game because of the hit from Skowski. So you lose Sermon, Fields is running, gingerly as is, and you don't have anyone really take, to replace Sermon. So at that point, I mean, Master was what he was, he can't. Yeah. He got a couple touchdowns in that game from the goal line, and I think he had a big run, but I mean, it's just, he is what he is. He wasn't shifty like Sermon. So yeah, I mean, that makes you think, like, why the hell weren't we just like every play, just bombing it on them and just doing what we could do?
Yeah. Just see, who knows? at a point once when Smith gets hurt, Waddle can't run, and then basically you have Michi. I get it that Tough Borland is literally covering the whole. It seems like every player, but like you're only down 2 scores at that point. Like just see what throwing bombs can do, and just at that point, if it becomes a shootout, it becomes a shootout, and you live with whatever your defense is going to give you. But they might be able to get back into the game.
Yeah, I know. That was kind of I was a little surprised. We in no way were we meaning to focus on that game again. So I apologize for the little tangent here, but yeah, like thinking back, like the success we had on Clemson, I realize a lot of it was running the ball too that set it up. But I mean, Fields and Ohio State just went vertical all over Clemson. I just thinking back, I'm surprised they didn't try a little bit more against Alabama in that game, especially with Sermon being hurt.
They might have been just worn out. Who knows? Maybe that shot to Fields, I don't know, maybe he couldn't throw it as deep depth because of just,
maybe
shoot him up. Maybe shoot him up with whatever you can shoot him up with. I don't know. I mean, that could have been it. Maybe it was just so much pain to, swing his arm back and really put everything into it.
Yeah. But anyway, so Olave measures bigger than what anyone thought he was. He's close to 6'1",
which is crazy.
Wilson actually measures shorter than what everyone thought he was. He's 5'11". But they're both sub 440 guys. So now you're talking about a real possibility, and anything could happen, and the Browns could screw it up because they'll probably have a shot at one of them, but there might be a legitimate shot that these are wide receivers 1 and 2 off the board.
Very easily, man. I mean,
look how they run routes. I mean, they caught every ball that was, thrown to them in their drills. They both ran sub 440s. They both, that these guys can run amazing routes just from their film, but they looked very crisp from the drills that I saw during the combine. So I think there is a good shot that, Wilson's wide receiver 1 and Olave, I think he may be wide receiver 3, but he could be number 2. He could be the second one off the board.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I agree with that. And most mock drafts I've been seeing is like they're both within the top 4 receivers off the board, but a lot of them they're both in the top 3 of of all the legitimate mock drafts. I know everybody has their own mock draft nowadays, but of the people that I actually consider, legitimate people grading these guys, I definitely see them in a lot of spots where they're in top 3, both of them. So yeah, top 2 could very much happen because at that point it's like, and they're both great route runners. I mean, Olave even brings that up in the combine. It's like it's a lot more than just speed. Why we get behind people, and it said how much Hartline's just a great teacher with teaching them routes, and they beat people with routes, and then their speed they get open, and then their speeds and nobody's catching them because they're fast. So I mean that's
yeah,
it's crazy. So I definitely they could very easily be the top 2. I think one of them will be the top one, most likely Wilson. But at that point, you don't know. Maybe somebody will like a team could like Olave just a little bit more than Wilson. I mean, you don't know how these guys are being graded within the teams, and so Olave could even be the top guy.
And the kid from USC and Arkansas,
Arkansas kid,
they're still out there. So they could definitely, take the top spot, or they could split the 2 of them, and one, Wilson could be 1, Olave 4. But I think Chris Olave is a top 15 pick because of that combine.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree. All right, so let's get on to spring here.
Spring ball starts on Tuesday, Mike.
It's just funny. This is the same thing with the NFL. Football, American culture. And, now it's like, I've been kind of going away from baseball over the last several years to begin with.
Well, that's good because I got some news for you about baseball.
Yeah.
There is no baseball.
So it's like these things have to, we got to get onto college football and to the NFL here and then be like, you guys got to find something else after the draft. Maybe we need more cameras set up in training camps than they even have now, and that includes college. Can we get cameras in there so we can just
can we get a second spring game?
my God. Like, but yeah, it's, season just feels like it's ended. I mean, the Super Bowl literally was just a couple weeks ago, and here, now we're into Columbine season and spring practices. So the football train rules runs on here, and so yeah, I mean, I think there's just a lot of I'm more stoked about this spring than I've been in a while.
Yeah, I agree,
because you still got so many young guys on the team. You got just a complete overall of the defensive coaching staff. You got a new offensive line coach. There's a lot of hope in the air. It seems like Mick's kind of getting back to old Mick, that, they just ran them ragged here in the fall or in the winter camps, which, hey, in my opinion, is a good thing. They were always the one thing you never argued about Urban's teams is that, and there was a couple points this year you kind of wondered that they might not have won every game, but there was nobody that was tougher than them on the field. And sometimes maybe Urban would just maybe not do what he should be doing, be like, just run the ball with them, because you're the more physical team on the field, that your offensive lineman's going to knock somebody into next week, and you got the running backs and usually a running quarterback that can just crush a team. So when all else fails, just play power football with somebody, because nobody's going to be tougher than you. And it was always the same thing on defense, is that their lines, their trenches were always the most well-conditioned against pretty much everybody that they played going into the fourth quarter. And it seemed like they got away with that a little bit this year. And I know there's a lot of things because of COVID that's they haven't got as full winter workouts as they've had during those eras, but it seems like they've really got back to that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing now what some of these guys look like come springtime. I'm interested just to see. I'm not expecting Knowles' defense to be, the 85 Bears or anything, but sure. I'm just like, I'd like to see what some of that looks like now here. And so it's going to be really interesting seeing some of that stuff.
No, I definitely agree. Like you said, how conditioned, how tough is this team? Offensive line, are they moving people off the ball? But yeah, defense, I'm very intrigued by defense. I think what I'm looking most forward to that, and by the time I think we get to the spring game, it's all that stuff's going to be more apparent, is just the new coaches. Does anybody take the opportunity to shine in the eyes of one of these new coaches? Like Harry Miller was a starter 2 years ago. Harry Miller is in danger. You got a stud at Donovan Jackson, Matt Jones, and Whippler. I don't think he's going to lose being their starting center after last year. So,
yeah,
can Harry Miller, though, maybe with Stud as the offensive line coach, maybe it would have been more of an uphill battle, but Justin Fry comes in, and now, everyone's new to him. So Harry Miller just has to go do his thing, and maybe he's a starter again. And same thing, on the linebacker. Everyone remembers last year, in our eyes, Steel Chambers might be the most athletic, best linebacker on the team. But you have guys that have been college linebackers a lot longer than Steel Chambers. You got a new dude now. So, can your Taraja Mitchells, can your Haley Neoteotes, can they step up and get a spot on that team? And I don't know if those guys fit the mold of what Jim Knowles is looking for. But, you got your Mitchell Meltons, your Cody Simon, Tommy Eichenberg. Tommy Eichenberg looked hell of a lot better come Rose Bowl time. We're not even talking about Cade Stover. Where is he going to play? Where's Court Williams going to play? There's
that. What is it? Is it Tatum, right? Or is that the kid's last name? The kid from Arizona State.
Trainum. What's his?
Trainum.
He goes by Chip.
Yeah.
Just call him.
So
Chip.
He's in there now too. So yeah.
CJ Hicks, Gabe Powers, these are highly recruited kids, and CJ Hicks really fits, I think, what they envision Ohio State's linebackers to be, as fast as they are.
And maybe with a coach now that can teach them the finer points of how to, be linebackers. And, so, if they get that good coaching that they just understand it a little bit better to be in the right positions, we saw, Tommy Eichenberg, once, they got back into the game against Utah, I mean, he was all over the field, and like he was dominant in the second half.
Well, he's the defensive MVP, right? I mean, he's
So like he was in on almost every play. Like it was like
Court Williams was in on a bunch of plays.
Yeah, it like felt like and I forget who said it. It was back in the day of like you think of like that's a Laurinaitis running through.
It really, I mean, that's really kind of who you remind me of. He was getting so many
tackles that it's like, oh, this is like a legitimate old school Ohio State linebacker just racking up tackles.
That's who Tommy Eichenberg reminded me of in the second half of that Rose Bowl was James Laurinaitis. Like, that's what he looked like. I mean, his pursuit angles were correct. He was breaking through the line, the right spot. He wasn't holding anything back. He was hitting guys behind the line. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, people think with we're just going, Ohio State's going faster and everything, which I hope they are fast. But at the same time, if a guy like Tommy Eichenberg can play fast, he might be one of your two best linebackers.
Yeah. And they've always, I mean, there might have been, like, I don't think Tough Borland and Tommy Eichenberg are the same guys.
No.
Sometimes at different points, Eichenberg kind of reminded me of him, but a lot of it was just that for whatever reason that they're making, like, you can have a complex defense and not have to think so much. So they got to get some of the thinking out of it, and they can still build a complex defense on top of it. These guys are just too many ifs and thens to them or whatever. So, build the defense that Knowles wants to build, but, maybe not have so many freaking options on each one of them that, that they just.
Yeah. And I think Eichenberg, there were times that he was running himself into blocks, he definitely struggled with that the first part of the year. But then, I mean, he was a different guy the second half of the season.
Yeah. No,
except against Michigan. Nobody was a different guy against Michigan. Everybody sucked in that game.
But no, definitely agree. I want to see where, obviously, Latham's not going to be back for this, but I want to see where Proctor's at. Like, is he, he hurt himself early in that season. So he should be about on the timeline where he's probably getting back now. So how much is he going to do come springtime? Because, if they get him back fully healthy, he definitely is going to fit into Knowles' defense as that back safety. And, I think he could be big things coming out of him. And, you were kind of crazy in the couple of the little bit of playing time he had earlier this season. You were starting to see it a little bit that he was actually a decent safety in the back. And it seemed like that.
Proctor shined for years.
Yeah. And he would always have like just good moments, and then he would have a couple bad moments. But now is he ready to really take on that mantle to be their back safety and a different type of safety look? But he's, Knowles' safety formation still has a back safety. And so, Proctor fits perfectly into that. And so I'm looking forward to seeing where he is, because I think he's ready to go. That could be really eye-opening, because, that would be a good thing. And that probably puts him in the eyes of the secondary coaches and in the eyes of Knowles that, this is our guy in the back. So,
yeah. And again, another tangent, but I find it's interesting that you mentioned Proctor, because he's like, to me, he is just an interesting case for a player. I don't know if he can, have the top end that he would ever be a first round draft pick. But I mean, you're looking at a guy just from like his career trajectory, the things he's done, things he hasn't done, missing year, what he could do this year. You're talking about a guy I think could go anywhere from second day draft pick to undrafted. I mean,
yeah,
I think he just has a whole wide range of where he could end up, being drafted, or if he gets drafted in the next level. I think it's very interesting. So I think this is a huge year for him, just by the chance, by the fact that, this will really affect his payday.
And if he could get, I mean, if he can come back healthy with the type of defense that Knowles runs, he could really, if he's ready to step up and take those type of responsibilities, I mean, he could very easily be a high second round pick, because, he's going to be dependent on a lot. Make sure people don't get behind you in those tight zones that Knowles is going to run. And, maybe get a couple picks here and there to,
Oh, I mean, and the kid's a ball hawk. He was always around the ball when he had his chances in. He's kid's a hammer. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, if you remember that last play against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game when he killed that quarterback, like he is just a hammer, and he's always there. It's just, can he put it all together that, we're talking about the next great safety at Ohio State?
Yeah. Offense, I don't know. I think the biggest thing on the offense is just seeing the offensive line and seeing how the running backs are kind of rotating, because it's kind of hard for me to say, I'm looking forward to seeing the receivers, because basically I saw all the receivers already in the Rose Bowl. So I feel I'm fine where the receivers and CJ Stroud are going to be with each other, at least the guys that you're expecting probably to be towards the higher end of the starting list. I'm interested to see what the tight end looks like there. That's going to be, there's some lack of depth there.
Yeah, sure.
So there's definitely stuff on the offensive side that I'm definitely looking at. The spring games could be interesting if the defense gets blown out in the spring game. What is the mood of the fan base at that point?
Oh my God, they'll be fire Jim Knowles.
You're going to have a lot of people that
know them.
I mean, I remember how down everybody was on Justin Fields because his spring game debut wasn't was mediocre at best, and he did some good things, but it's a spring game, and so it's always hard to judge spring games, and I'm looking forward to all the media sites, because I think you get a lot more out of the spring practices than you do out of the spring game per se. And because the spring games, they're trying to get some work done, but at the same time, they're trying to give fans some money. Their money's for them. I mean, I believe everybody donates to get a ticket that it goes to the games. I mean, you're donating money goes to charity. So, they want to give everybody whatever they're worth. Hopefully you get a big crowd in there. And so, they always do the little fun things, at the halftime or whatever. But, so, I mean, the real work's always in the practices. So that's why it seems like, I've heard from a couple of the guys, from a couple of the media sites, and I think you told me from what you read it too, that it seems like they might get another media availability day and possibly 2 extra media availability days than they've gotten in the past. So that's nice, and I'm looking forward to that. I think on Tuesday, the opening, we're going to get interviews from. I know Knowles and Days for sure. Is Wilson the other one that we're getting media availability with? Is it both the coordinators and Day?
I think so. I honestly can't remember past Day and Knowles. I just kind of think of it as the head coach and then the defensive head coach now.
Yeah. I think they said Wilson too. I think we're getting both coordinators and Day, but
that would definitely make sense.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to hear just them. I mean, you're not going to really tell much after the first day. It's always weird with Ohio State because they have a couple days and then they go in spring break and then it's like, they let them go and then they come back afterwards. So, I mean, these are going to be non-contact days. So that will be, so that's always weird. Are you really getting a lot or you're not getting a lot, but it's just going to be nice to just hear about football again. I mean, it feels like it was so long ago and it really wasn't. So.
Yeah. And, I was just thinking about this. Ohio State at the combine, I think they only had like 7 guys or something. When was the last time you heard Ohio State only having 7 guys invited to the combine? And that Ohio State's recruiting has not fallen off.
No, that's how young they are.
That means they got all these extra guys that got all this experience coming back, and it'll be fun to watch. But this spring is going to be very interesting because they're very deep at a lot of spots and they're very thin at some other spots. And I'm wondering if you need to move some pieces around to, get some depth everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that will be interesting. It seems like probably the least depth that they have is at the tight end position. I think that they got some good. I actually think they have some really good depth through all the levels of the defense with maybe they have to be a little deeper in the secondary, but
secondary is a little thin.
They're raw, they're young, and I think they got some younger kids in there now. So that one will be interesting to see where that goes. I mean, if Stover's staying on the defense and with Chip coming in, Taraja back, I mean, the linebacker depth's fine. Mm-hmm. And the defensive line depth's fine. I mean, if you really start going through all the players that they have still on the defensive line,
it's crazy.
You still forget that Friday's coming back.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an embarrassment of riches on the defensive line. I know they didn't have their best year last year, but it's still, still probably one of the most feared units on the team. And them and, now the receivers. Of course, you got, Henderson at running back. Just to go back to the offense receivers, I think that's going to be kind of interesting too. I mean, I know you got you got 4 guys. You got 4 guys that really showed up in the Rose Bowl. So you got to kind of make a starting 3 out of them. But Chris Olave, the first name he mentioned during interviews was Jaden Ballard, talking about how he has elite speed and he just has to get better with his route running. I mean, and there's been comps since, we're from Massillon. So there have been comps that he is Devin Smith, the second coming of Devin Smith. But just hearing talk about the speed like that, I don't know how these 4 guys, if you have someone to take the top off the defense, and if he is that fast, he could really be an interesting factor in this team, as long as he's getting his reps moving forward, though, because you need a guy that can get behind the defense.
And who knows, maybe they'll run more at different times this year, 4 receiver sets, and even maybe the 3 tight ends or the 3 receivers with the 1 tight end. Maybe they will, because of the lack of depth at the tight end, maybe they will see where, maybe adding an extra guy and the receiver side of it could be. There's always been a lot of things that they can do. He's got a lot of formation abilities in it.
Yeah.
I think the other big thing I want to see is, you're over in scholarships. And as you said, they're very deep in a lot of positions. So, there's transfers coming.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So where are those transfers coming from? And, there's going to be movement on this team, and there's going to be players that we all like that, have been on the team for a couple of years so I think it's going to be a little hard for the fans to see some, because there's going to be a couple big names go. And I would say that, I don't want to say anybody in particular, because I don't know any inside information at all, but you've mentioned 4 inside guys that are competing for 3 spots on the offensive line. Is the one guy that seems like he's out? Does he decide is he going to be a backup knowing that he's 1 injury away from being a starter? Or is he going to decide that, I want to move on and see what I can do somewhere else? Well, you got an interesting running back room between, Mayan and Trevion. If Trevion fully takes the room, does Mayan get to the point that, I could go play for Luke down at Cincinnati? And, so there's a lot of things, even at the receiver core, there's depth there between the young guys coming in. You got 4 guys now, going to be pushing for 3 positions. As one of them say that is Ballard, where, does he decide is I could go somewhere else?
Yeah.
And, so, there's a lot of things, and there's even a lot more on defense that could happen. Couple of these defensive linemen, is one of them going to get to the point that being there's just so much depth here. And maybe I'm older and, I want to see what I can do somewhere else.
So. Yeah. It's going to happen. And, I'm going to have to take a day or 2 off from Buckeye Twitter when it does happen, because it's always the overreaction of overreactions for guys that didn't even play. And but some of those guys that you were kind of the what ifs, like Maya Williams, that would be a big blow. And I know you said go play for Luke. I think Mike will go play for, bigger programs, better programs. I think he could too.
Indiana. That would be an easy, that would be a very easy one for him. He knows
in-state,
Combs is there. It's in state. He's from there. I mean, that would be an easy transition for him to go there. And, Luke would open arms for him,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, Mayan's an impressive running back.
Yeah.
He's tough.
Well, anything else you want to talk about spring, or
no,
we're good?
No,
get on out of here for tonight.
I think we're good. I'm interested to see, how Tuesday and Wednesday, what it first looks look like, but we're a long way off.
Yeah, exactly. Just be nice to hear a couple things, and looking forward to the Big Ten tournament also starting this weekend to see what the Buckeyes can do, and got the tourney, the NCAA tourney right behind it. So, that's always I always love that first weekend. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep, and then sports get, after March and April, then it gets you go in another lull.
Yeah, NBA playoffs NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs are usually pretty good, so we'll get some of those. But
all sports, like within the last couple of years, I don't know if it's because COVID, they all changed all the professional leagues changed their playoff format, and I don't get them anymore. Like I don't follow pro sports close enough. I don't understand it. There's play-in games now for the NBA or play-in series, and I don't understand any of it. I think everyone in baseball makes the playoffs. Football has more teams. Hockey is hockey. I mean, I watch maybe one hockey game a year, if that. So, yeah, it's all confusing.
All right. Take us on out of here.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added, and please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.